Tonight, we are reminded of those that have given their life through missions. One such missionary was born just before Christmas in 1867 and died just after Christmas, 83 years later. She was Amy Beatrice Carmichael. Sailing alone for India at the age of 27, this spirited Irish girl served 56 years without ever once taking a furlough. She endured loneliness, danger, illness, and struggled to deal with a foreign language and culture. Amy so wanted to identify with the people of India that she absorbed as much of their traditions as possible, even to the point of exchanging her British clothing for the traditional Indian sari. Amy was a woman who understood true discipleship. Her life of obedience stands as a model to all of us who claim the name of Christ. A woman with desires and dreams, faults and fears, who gave her life unconditionally to serve her master. Now, let's take a look at the woman who became affectionately known throughout India as Amma, the Indian name for mother.
I arrived on the shores of India in 1895, then traveled by land to Bangalore, a city in South India. I was so ill when I arrived that it was necessary that I receive care from the mission hospital, in which I eventually served after my recovery. When I began the work there, I was responsible for evangelistic ministry among the patients in the hospital. I thought of myself as the hospital prophet. I loved the work, the climate, and my fellow workers. I especially loved the Indian people, but found them to be a series of contradictions. They were lovable and cruel, bright and dull, eager and lazy. They were trustworthy and utterly the opposite, courteous and quite barbarous. They were everything you could imagine, except perhaps straightforward. I spent my first few years in India working in the mission hospital and also trying to evangelize the women in surrounding towns and villages. My co-workers and I saw a few converts, but prayed earnestly that God would send a larger harvest.
Now at this point, Amy had spent 7 years in India, had learned the language, and had a great burden to reach the people. However, she had not quite found that special ministry that God had for her. Then, in 1901, something happened which changed the entire course of her mission work.
On one of our evangelistic journeys, my co-workers and I stopped at a village to rest for the evening. Close by was a Hindu temple. The Hindu temples, we had learned, kept women who served the temple gods as prostitutes. We had often tried to speak with them, but without much success. We also learned that many of the women had been bought as infants from their mothers and raised in the temple women's house. These children were gracious little maidens, almost always more refined than ordinary children, and beautiful. When I first heard that there were children behind the temple walls, I desperately wanted to reach over the walls to rescue them. But how? Well, God truly is a God of miracles. That very night we stopped to rest. There was a 7-year-old girl in the nearby temple. Her father and her mother had sold her to the temple gods. She had experienced such cruelty that she longed to escape. She heard the women hatefully talking about me as a child's mama and decided that she wanted to be stolen by the woman called Mother. On that very night, she eluded capture by the women, and with a little help, she found her way to me. I was having tea early in the morning when I looked up to see a small girl running straight for me. She climbed on my lap and chattered away. She said, "My name is Pearl Eyes, and I want to stay here always. I have come to stay."
Well, the arrival of Pearl Eyes began what became a succession of temple children, as well as others of great need, causing Amy to start the Dawn Over Fellowship, a ministry to children in danger. The work grew tremendously throughout the years to include 12 homes, a medical center, and later, a ministry for little boys caught in the Hindu temple system. Amy oversaw and trained many staff missionaries throughout the years, and that work is still in operation today. Another facet of Amy's life that has touched people throughout the world was her writings. No matter how crowded her days and nights, the demands on her time or lack of privacy, Amy always managed time to write. She was a published author of over 44 books, of which If is still her most popular. In it, she describes her deepest desire to become a channel of God's love to the world.
Love through me, love of God, make me like thy clear air, through which, unhindered, colors pass, as though it were not there. Powers of the love of good, depths of the heart divine, O love that faileth not, break forth and flood this world of thine.